How does a stripper manage to transform herself into a wealthy, lavish spender in just a few short years? In 2011, Florida, Liza found herself single and raising her daughter after her divorce. She recently started working at a strip club, where one evening she met a seemingly friendly man whom she instantly pegged as a pharmaceutical rep. In just 45 minutes, he willingly spent $2,000 and left her his business card, hinting at a lucrative future if she joined him. This was the first time Liza had encountered such a friendly drunk, and she politely took his card. Soon after, she received a call from her daughter Phoebe's school, threatening expulsion. Having familiarized herself with the legal and school regulations since Phoebe's enrollment, Liza managed to negotiate the punishment down to a 3-day suspension, even after an accidental fire in the woods opposite the school. Returning home, which was actually her sister's garage where she had overstayed her welcome, Liza was already stressed from the school incident and now found herself unemployed again. A heated argument with her sister ensued, and despite their mother's intervention, it ended poorly. With no other option, Liza took her daughter to a long-stay motel, an environment hardly suitable for living. The next day, with her car also breaking down, she remembered the amiable drunk from the bar, Chris. She called him, but he didn't answer. Disheartened, her mother came to the rescue, lending her car to Liza. Determined, Liza drove straight to Chris's company. Inside, Chris, an executive, was pitching to 2 bankers a revolutionary painkiller for cancer, Lonafen, which supposedly had no side effects. The bankers, however, were skeptical of such a perfect solution. At that moment, Liza arrived with her resume. Shocked to see she hadn't even graduated high school, Chris embellished her resume with a series of bio-research qualifications and even added a handwritten PhD on top. Dr. Neal, the company's big boss, didn't delve deep and hired her on the spot. However, to secure her position, Liza had to get a doctor to prescribe Lonafen within a week. If successful, she'd earn a hefty monthly bonus. After watching the Lonafen promotional video repeatedly and guided by Chris, she approached Dr. Lydell's clinic, who had prescribed $9 million worth of a rival drug the previous year. If she could convince Dr. Lydell, Liza stood to make $500,000 a year. With no room for error, she brought homemade snacks and, imitating the actors in the promotional video, professionally introduced Lonafen to Dr. Lydell. But as Liza tried to make her move, she was stunned to find the rival company's representative also present, engaging in flirtatious tactics with Dr. Lydell. This was a real eye-opener for Liza, who realized that just like her job at the strip club, success in the pharmaceutical industry was about pleasing and charming the clients. To worsen her situation, Liza's daughter Phoebe suddenly suffered a seizure due to arteriovenous malformation. The doctors suggested minimally invasive surgery, but it wasn't covered by insurance, leaving medication as the only viable maintenance option. Wanting to ensure a better rest environment for Phoebe, Liza reluctantly decided to send her to live with her ex-husband and his belittling new wife. Fortune, however, seemed to favor her. Returning to Dr. Lydell's clinic in the afternoon, Liza overheard a patient's family member complaining about the side effects of current pain medications. Seizing the moment, she loudly recommended Lonafen. The suffering patient agreed to try it, prompting Dr. Lydell to prescribe 100 micrograms of Lonafen, thereby securing Liza's job. Yet Liza had bigger plans. She aimed to invite Dr. Lydell to the company's speaker program, a well-known industry practice where companies pay doctors to promote their drugs, often with hefty benefits. Initially, the company's executives were against such spendings due to near bankruptcy, but knowing Dr. Lydell's vulnerable state amidst a painful divorce, Liza made a bold decision. She and Chris planned to run a low-cost speaker program. Despite the risks, the profits were too tempting to ignore. The event was successfully executed, but the cheap venue infuriated Dr. Lydell. However, Liza, with her smooth talking, quickly diffused his anger and turned the venue into a wild celebration, exactly what Dr. Lydell needed amidst his tumultuous divorce. Chris then made an enticing offer to Dr. Lydell, only $500 per speaker program with 3 programs a week. Dr. Lydell readily accepted. Concerned about the legality, Liza questioned Chris, who reassured her that they were merely speeding 2 miles over the limit. Soon after, an excited Chris reported that Dr. Lydell had rapidly switched 40 patients to Lonafen in just 3 days. To celebrate, he gifted Liza a gold bracelet, promising a $600,000 earning by year end if they maintained the momentum. With her newfound wealth, Liza didn't hold back. She bought her mother a new car and paid her sister 2 months' worth of rent with interest. A few days later, when the executives learned about the unauthorized speaker program initiated by Liza and Chris, they initially planned to reprimand them. However, After discovering that the duo had earned the company $200,000 in just a week, their anger quickly turned into enthusiasm. They even considered taking credit for the success in front of the big boss. But Chris had anticipated this and had already reported their activities to the company's CEO, Dr. Neal. With his approval, they started a large-scale recruitment to build their own sales team. Focusing solely on sales skills, they quickly assembled a diverse group of sales talents, including beer promoters and even Liza's mother. They had various ways to approach doctors, and some salespeople even had doctors in their families. With their efforts, Lonofen dominated nearly 90% of the cancer painkiller market in Southeast Florida. When Liza encountered her competitors again at Dr. Liddell's clinic, they threatened to reclaim their market share. In response, they increased their public relations budget and hosted lavish speaker programs at expensive hotels. However, their aggressive tactics caught the attention of the FBI. It turned out the competitors were blatantly bribing doctors to prescribe their drugs to patients who didn't need them. With the competitors' sales staff arrested, Liza nearly lost all competition. The company's performance soared, and as a reward, Dr. Neal arranged a luxurious house for Liza, conveniently located near an elite private school, an ideal place for Phoebe to attend. Liza was thrilled. Aware of the expensive tuition and the principal's hint at limited spots, she offered to pay double the fees to ensure Phoebe's enrollment. However, new problems soon arose. Company executives, feeling threatened by Liza and Chris's influence, gathered evidence of Liza's falsified resume. But Dr. Neal, aware of her significant contributions, not only refrained from reprimanding her, but also promoted both Liza and Chris, increasing their salaries. Another executive at the company ran into trouble during an internal meeting. Chris noticed the executive acting suspiciously and decided to search him, finding a recording device. It turned out the executive was worried about legal issues and wanted to gather evidence to protect himself. However, this breach of trust led Dr. Neal to lose confidence in him. Dr. Neal liquidated the executive's $32 million worth of stocks and sent him away. Despite the rapid expansion, Dr. Neal's ambition did not stop there. He sought to maximize opportunities for doctors to prescribe the drug to patients with other illnesses, a reckless strategy that would likely lead to the company's downfall. Liza, aware of these perilous tactics, visited Dr. Liddell's clinic once again. Sensing her unease, Dr. Liddell offered her a comforting hug. Inside, Liza hesitantly revealed that the company was pressuring them to discuss with doctors about prescribing higher than standard doses of medication. To her surprise, Dr. Liddell readily agreed and even demanded a 25% kickback, pushing the company further into illegal practices. Distressed, Liza went to see her daughter's dance performance, only for Phoebe to collapse due to her condition. Doctors announced she needed surgery within 2 weeks, costing $680,000, while Liza only had $230,000 in cash. She attempted to mortgage her $15 million worth of company stocks for a $450,000 loan, but the bank refused due to the instability of the pharmaceutical industry. Liza then thought of Dr. Liddell, known for his frugal lifestyle and presumed cash reserves, and considered asking him for a loan. However, Dr. Liddell was having a bad day himself. First, a patient overdosed and collapsed, leading to the patient's wife threatening to sue him. Then, he was caught red-handed by an undercover cop disguised as a patient. After Dr. Liddell's arrest, Liza went to the clinic and saw the crowd of onlookers, which scared her into fleeing in her car. She rushed to Dr. Neal's house, frantically informing him about Dr. Liddell's capture. However, both Dr. Neal and Chris, seasoned in navigating such crises, remained calm. Chris even suggested manipulating the dosage to mitigate the loss of prescriptions from one doctor. Liza was utterly shocked. Patients were already dying from overdoses, yet these men were unmoved. They were confident in their fleet of experienced lawyers to evade legal consequences. Realizing Dr. Neal was going to extremes, Liza decided it was time to leave the company. She mentioned her daughter's impending surgery and the $450,000 shortfall. But Dr. Neal informed her that her stocks wouldn't vest until she completed a year, leaving her 3 months short. Troubled and unable to sleep, Liza's conscience was further burdened when she discovered a neighbor at the motel also using her company's drugs. At dawn, she went to the Florida State Prosecutor's office to report all the illegal activities of her company. However, the prosecutor noted that without solid evidence, it would be nearly impossible to win against the company's powerful lawyers. Liza realized Dr. Neal never left any direct evidence of his involvement in illegal activities. The usual workflow was that Liza would email the CEO, Chris, who would print it out for Dr. Neal, to review with a ruler, marking important points before destroying the printout. The prosecutor suggested that even a photocopy of such printouts with ruler markings could be enough. They could match the wear on Dr. Neal's ruler to the lines on the document, An original document would be even better, providing a more direct link to the illegal activities. Liza understood that without existing evidence, she needed to create it herself. She emailed Chris about getting 18 different doctors to join the speaker program, each with their own set of demands totaling $250,000. Chris took the printed email to Dr. Neal's house. Due to the various demands from the 18 doctors, Dr. Neal marked up the document with lines, symbols, and even text. Chris then organized a party, joyously assigning tasks related to the 18 doctors to the sales team amidst dancing and singing. Lisa observed this final revelry before sneaking the marked document from Chris's clothes in the dressing room. Just as she was about to leave, Chris caught up to her. Although her attempt to create evidence was unsuccessful, Chris realized their end was near and informed Dr. Neal, who was already prepared. He intended for Chris to take the fall, promising substantial compensation. Even the previously resigned executive received a large sum from Dr. Neal to stay silent, leaving the state prosecutor with no way to move forward with the case. Meanwhile, Phoebe's surgery couldn't be delayed any longer. Unable to raise the $680,000, Liza settled for a more invasive open skull surgery for her daughter. After Phoebe was discharged, Liza's mother came to visit and shared an interesting piece of information. She had a one-night stand with Dr. Neal at a company party and obtained his email address. Unaware of the full situation, she had reported about the speaker program and mentioned staff embezzling funds meant for bribing doctors in her emails with Dr. Neal. His dismissive replies were exactly the solid evidence the state prosecutor was looking for. Soon after, Dr. Neal was arrested, and the deaths caused by Lonafen overdoses finally attracted media attention. The court sentenced Dr. Lydell to 40 months, Chris to 36 months, and Dr. Neal to 66 months in prison. Liza, recognized for her role in exposing the company's wrongdoing, received a reduced sentence but was still implicated due to her direct involvement with the company's activities. She was sentenced to 15 months in prison. The fluctuating genre of pain hustlers not only prevented the audience from fully engaging, but also affected the overall viewing experience. The film attempted to blend elements of crime and dark comedy, yet it failed to delve deeply into either. This ambiguity might have been the director's intention to create a unique style, but it didn't satisfy the audience. Subplots in the story appeared and vanished at random, leaving many questions unresolved. The film's pacing was erratic, with long, quiet scenes suddenly giving way to tense action sequences. This instability made it hard for the audience to stay focused on the plot, disrupting the story's flow.